Okay, we are live. Let's play. Okay, so here we are. That's one you're familiar with, John.
Yeah, it's one of your best. It deserves more listeners, more hearings.
Yeah, we actually had a response from Richard Dawkins with that song in an email saying yes, he liked it. I hadn't heard back from him since then, but I thought that was pretty cool, that initial thing. But that was obviously through you too. So anyway, I'd like to introduce it. Like, I'm sorry we're a bit late because I mixed up the time zone. This is the first time I've done a stream. I mixed up the time zones and I had it the 12 midday, where you are, John, in England, was our 8 p.m. So I stuffed that up. I was wondering what the hell's going on. Whereas John,
you were hoping it was daylight savings time in Australia, right?
Well,
me too. We've had enough of the cold.
Because all the daylight savings times, like, it must come into it, obviously.
Yeah.
How would it be like 3 hours? Never mind. I'm not even going to go there.
It's actually 10 to 12 here now. But
yeah, 10 to 12.
If I was in the government in control, I would cancel daylight saving time. It's nonsense. Let's at the same time all the year.
Yeah, true enough. I understand why it gets done, but yeah, I mean, like, it's not real. It's just it's a construct. It's something that we create. I suppose it can be practical, but yeah, either way, I don't know. But so we're here and we're having a chat with John, who's a retired science teacher. With Zoltan, and we're just going to ask a few questions and see what we come up with here. So,
fabulous.
How long, John, were you a science teacher? You're now retired.
Well, that's going to take a little working out, because it must have been about 30 years, because I dipped in and out of the profession a bit. One of the advantages of being a science teacher is, there's always going to be vacancies.
Yeah.
So it's quite safe to try other things for a little while, knowing that you'll pick up another job if it doesn't go well. So
I'm sorry, how so? That there's always going to be vacancies. Sorry, what do you mean by that?
There's a shortage of science teachers.
Is there? Right.
Yeah. So
you popped in and out, but overall, like, the period was about 30 years, roughly.
In total, it was about 30 years, because I had a couple of periods off when I was being a carer for my first wife, who got cancer and subsequently left us, and then for my mother, who also went blind and needed assisting. So those were some of the reasons why I left the profession for periods of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it adds up to about 30 years if you put it all together.
Okay. All right. And getting straight to the point, because I want to cut straight to the bone and ask just some questions So, like, you're an outspoken atheist. What is the group that because you're with AAI? I know that much.
Not anymore.
Alliance International, but not with that group anymore. But you are now the president of another atheist group. Is it Atheists UK or?
Yeah, Atheism UK.
Atheism UK. Okay. So my question was going to be, like, during your time as a science teacher, did you ever come across like fundamentalist students? So it could be Muslim or a Christian or whatever, who didn't accept your teachings?
That's a good question. Well, at the period of time when I was involved in teaching biology to A level, which was, you know, the foundation of biology is evolution. Everything sits on that. And I can remember there was one girl, very bright girl, who had opted to do A-level biology. And I started out the course. I don't know why I started with evolution. Maybe that was the way the curriculum crumbled or something. But as I said, it's a foundation. So get it out of the way first, and you can build on that assumption. And after a couple of lessons, she came to me and she said that her parents weren't happy and they wanted her to change her options. So she left because her parents were theistic. They believed in creation. And so she went and did, I don't know, needlework or something. So that was the only occasion when I met that, because of course this is actually it was in last century, you know, and at that time in England here, religious affiliation was a minority, a niche thing. Hardly anyone attended church. The number's even gone down in terms of the Anglican church.
Yeah.
If you can buy a church over here, they're on the market because
right?
Yeah.
Go to England and buy a church.
Yeah.
Just what I've always wanted.
There's a whole lot of them available for sale.
Yeah.
Some of them have been turned into mosques, and I can think of one just down the road here that's become a Greek Orthodox church. It wasn't a variety of Anglicanism. I think it might have been Methodist or something. And then there's another one just down the road that's turned into an eye hospital. Much better use.
Yeah.
You go
I can relate to that one. Yeah. Something that's actually quite useful.
And a lot of them have been turned into homes and offices and other sorts of premises. So meeting fundamentalists was unusual.
Right. Yeah. I was just curious about that because I remember watching a Dawkins documentary where he went to a school, but it was like a Muslim school, Islam-based. And they didn't want to accept stuff. They had issues with just different things like salt water couldn't mix with normal water and things like that. And so it just made me think of that because you being a science teacher, that you may have come across that type of thing. But you didn't have religion in your life ever, did? Like, you weren't brought up with that as a family background?
Nope. No, I was lucky. I chose my parents carefully. They weren't religious. And neither were any of my extended family. I had both of my parents came from big families. That was the way back then. You had lots of brothers and sisters. And so I had lots of uncles and aunties and cousins and so on. And the only time we went to church was for a wedding or a funeral.
Or a christening, maybe?
Well, not particularly. As a small boy, I didn't get taken to the funerals. I remember going to some weddings, but it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, likewise for me. Actually, I didn't have that bringing up. Wally or Sultan, like I call him Wally, but that goes back a bit. I've never ever asked you that before. Did you ever have a background like that with your parents, like being Hungarian? I don't know, with the whole European or Eastern
Catholic
Europe.
upbringing, standard Catholic upbringing. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And I guess in early high school, I had two influences in high school. One was my English. One was my music teacher, which led to my career. The other one was my science teacher. Who were the two only two teachers I could connect with mentally on a level, and I guess that science enabled me to see it from that point of view, which made a lot more sense to me. But look, I was never overly religious because it was always, what's the word? It was always pushed upon us, you know.
Yeah.
Not heavily in our family, but some families it was pushed. Or in some cases, there's no option as a child to choose. You don't have a choice.
Indoctrination,
you know, because it's ordained for you. You know, this is how it's going to be, which is quite a sad state of affairs. But I said thanks to my science teacher and my music teacher, I was able to expand on what
what was actually true.
Since those days, since the time that we were talking about, when I was teaching biology, faith schools have made a comeback in this country.
Yeah.
And it's very regrettable. And I'm afraid it's due to Tony Blair, who introduced the concept of academies, and that enabled the educational authority to work in collusion with some other organization. And the people who jumped into that opportunity were the churches. There's a few faith schools that have a partnership with a business, but most of them are church-based. So the governance of a lot of our, particularly secondary schools, is now faith-based.
Yeah.
And it's a bone of contention. It's something that Atheism UK is fighting against, and other organizations like Humanist UK and Secular Society of the UK. But I mean, to give you an example, we've been contacted by a mother. She's a lecturer at a university, and she's got 3 children at primary school, and she sent them to the nearest primary school, you know, which happened to be a Roman Catholic one. She wasn't concerned at the time that she did. I mean, in a more or less secular country, there wasn't the expectation that this would be too harmful. However, now that they are transitioning to secondary school, the Roman Catholic diocese of the area where she lives, and bear in mind that we have overlapping Roman Catholic and Anglican dioceses, because although we got rid of the Pope Henry VIII, and then they came back, and so we have now both types of parishes, both types of dioceses, both types of hierarchical structures of the two major groups of Christianity. But in this particular case, and this is not exceptional, the Roman Catholic diocese they do everything they can to disallow these children who have been to a Roman Catholic primary school, junior and infant school, to transition to a non-faith secondary school. They claim that once you've been grabbed, then you're
in the system and that's it.
Yeah. Which is actually, I don't know whether it's illegal, but it's certainly counter to the regulations, counter to the spirit of transition, which is about freedom. It's about freedom of choice for parents and pupils. And so they should be able to go from school A to school B, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we're having to fight that right now. Their attempt to.
It's kind of authoritarian, isn't it? Like to keep that thing going, trying to push them to stick with that thing. Like it's it's a lack of freedom. You know, like as you are a person that's a free thinker, you would like to think that you would have that freedom to be able to transition and change. My kids went to a Catholic primary school as well, but they weren't forced to go otherwise, although they were encouraged to go to the Catholic high school, one of which my middle son did actually go to. The others didn't. They went to musical schools and sports schools, whatever. But the middle one went to a Catholic school, and he didn't like it because they would stop and they would do prayers. Like they'd literally just be walking. Yeah. And I don't know what would happen. I must have come through the loudspeaker or something, and they would have to stop and just stand and do this Lord's Prayer, whatever it was.
Well, one of my last appointments was at a Roman Catholic secondary school.
Yeah.
And
as a science teacher,
and I was in the science department. I was winding down from teaching because I'd already taken my pension, but I was picking up some, extra money by doing some supply work. And at that time, I was actually the chief laboratory technician, which, didn't pay quite as much, but it was a lot easier of a job. You finished work at the end of the day, and there was no other responsibilities. So I did that, and I did it for a term, and it amazed me that one of the chemistry teachers attempted to finish his lesson with the Lord's Prayer. He'd done a chemistry lesson. This was year 7, so they were only 11 to 12-year-olds. And he tried to get them to stand and say the Lord's Prayer with him
at the end of a science lesson.
And credit to the kids, they walked out.
Good on them. Protesting.
Yeah.
Not accepting it. Yeah, look, it's quite crazy. Look, we could continue on and keep talking about it. Actually, no, I did have another question. And I'm assuming that the answer is that you didn't. But was there ever a period in your life where you explored spiritual things or considered religion or gods or didn't go in that direction? Because I had a period, and so did Zoltan. And I don't know exactly where he's at the moment, but I did definitely go through kind of a new age spiritual thing. Religion was never a thing for me, like even from a pretty young age. I think even before I was 20, I'd figured out, come on, seriously, this just doesn't make sense. I don't go for religion at all. So I'd figured that out by the time I was 20. But then in my 20s, kind of drifted and went a little, just exploring it, down a spiritual path, but it was kind of to do with more of the new age, esoteric type teachings, and both
via care of Hermann Hesse. Yes.
Huh?
Care of Hermann Hesse, reading Hermann Hesse.
Yeah, Hermann Hesse. Yeah. What was that?
Siddhartha.
Yeah, Siddhartha. Yeah. Which is still a great book, by the way.
It is, amazing writer. He actually was quite profound in one of his autobiographical writings.
I read that.
It was. I'd like to. I need to reread it, but he sort of tried to pinpoint.
Yeah.
That connection, whatever that is, and you talk about.
And it was kind of psychological. It wasn't overly over the top spiritual. It was kind of psychological. There's a lot to be said for meditation and those types.
If you can differentiate between spiritualism and religion, I think that's two quite opposing or different things.
Yeah.
In my view, spiritualism is not necessarily organized religion.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Look, I subscribe to what I would call secular spirituality, like which is just an appreciation of the universe, a connection with it, just as part of that. I mean, also, I think that meditation and things like that have a positive thing. But that's coming purely from a psychological thing. I don't believe there's a connection with a spiritual thing outside of that, some supernatural connection. Like meditation is purely psychological for me, but it is a thing. But yeah, so I don't know. I like the idea of secular spirituality. That's what I call it. And I have heard it referred to that before by other people. But yeah, pretty much past the New Age thing. But you didn't have any of those types of experiences, John. You didn't drift down those paths.
Well, I'm aware of them because there was a sort of upwelling of them at music festivals and places like that, where hippies and pyramids and all that sort of almost crystal ball gazing and hand reading nonsense was available.
I never fell for any of that.
No,
I didn't fall for that. I mean, that's.
I'm sorry, just to add, are you saying that you would visit frequent music festivals, John?
No, I have one claim to having attended a music festival, and it is a top-notch claim. Listen to this. See, I'm very old, so I was around when the Isle of Wight started holding musical festivals. And the first one was headlined by
Jimi Hendrix.
That's the one, Jimi Hendrix. Yes, I didn't go to that one. I regret not going to that one.
That one, John, and you're a muso too. Like
yes,
you're an ex-muso.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, but I did go to the next one, and the headline there was Bob Dylan. And this was just when he changed from being acoustic and a bit sort of droning in terms of melody into his new voice with a rock band behind him, and that wasn't popular. Everybody wanted the old Bob Dylan.
Yeah,
so
that would have been around the 70s too, wouldn't it?
Well, this was
around the 70s because he did make that transition in the 70s, I think, from.
This was actually earlier than. This was earlier than that. This was in the middle 60s, I think.
Was it that really?
Or the late 60s, probably.
Yeah.
But he was notorious because he kept us waiting for because he was top of the bill, so the last act, and he kept us waiting for hours, and we were standing there in a field, and it was getting dark, and there was nothing much to do, and we already had seen Tom Paxton, who really blew us away, because this was in the period of folk music being top of the tree. And but then a helicopter came. Bear in mind, this was in the middle 60s. Nobody had seen a helicopter unless they'd been in the military. So it was an amazing, like, heavenly appearance of the Bob. And then he got up and he disappointed us by not doing his old material, but doing his new material.
Yeah.
At that time, the audience started to walk out of the field. There's no building to walk out of, but walk away. We left.
Bob not much of a conformist.
No.
He definitely did just what Bob wanted to do.
Well, it sort of brings it back round to our conversation at hand, because Bob did go through his religious stage. He became very religious.
Is that right?
Absolutely. Blood on the Tracks is totally a...
So being Jewish, was it Jewish religion?
Oh, good question. Good question. I can't tell you that. I don't know. I thought it was...
Christianity or something connected.
Well, I guess, maybe. Maybe I presume that.
Yeah.
Maybe we all presume that, but maybe it was Jewish.
Okay, interesting. Very interesting. I didn't know he went through, but I didn't really know what his spirituality was. But
very much.
So maybe getting away with that, like we're doing deep and meaningful questions. The idea of this thing is to explore things with people to get a very real opinion and ideas from people that are going to help in the creative process of writing music and yeah, just kind of street level and speaking to real people. So this is the whole point. So I just want to ask questions and throw them out and just see what your opinion is. Do you think absolute objective truth exists? And if so, do you believe that science can ever know it?
That's aimed at me then, is it?
Well, science teacher, the retired science. So,
yeah, I'm happy to answer that. The answer is no.
Yeah.
Because for a couple of reasons. For a start, in the natural realm, I'm not talking about what we think inside our heads. I'm talking about what we observe that's out there. Nothing is absolute. Everything is relative.
Yeah.
And it's all relative to time, and probably in a lot of cases to some other factors. So everything is changing.
Yeah.
And that means it can't be absolute. To be absolute,
right.
It would have to be eternally the same.
Yeah.
And that
so it would have to be static, like Newton's theory of gravity. That type of thing. You mean was a static universe? Newton's.
Before we go down that rabbit hole, let me finish talking about objective, because I've dismissed absolute as a possibility. I now want to dismiss objective as a possibility, because I don't think that's obtainable either. Because in order to assess a proposition, it's got to go through a brain. And I don't see how. What brains do is they influence the message that's going through them. And I don't see how you can switch that off. I think there's going to be a taint of some sort of subjectivity based on, your experiences, your beliefs, your knowledge.
Yeah.
That you're going to warp any claim or proposition that passes through you. So I don't think there's.
I guess my question was, because brains are subjective, and I understand that. So your perception of a certain thing is going to be different to the next person.
Yeah.
But is there an objective truth outside of that, which may be unattainable, but does it exist? Is it
right?
Although your perception is different. Everyone's perception is different, so that's the subjective side of it. But is there an objective truth out there that is attainable, or is it there and it's not attainable? Or
again, that's a good question, and it comes back to Newton's theory of gravity, or theory of the laws of motion, and that's where I do want to deal with that rabbit hole, because Newton was neither right nor wrong. And this is the case. I don't like using the word true. This is the case with all scientific information. It's all provisional, because we don't know what observations we might make tomorrow that might challenge what we understand today. So Newton's laws are bloody good. I mean, we use them in the beginning of the space era to program Voyager, for example. And
they worked.
Yeah, indeed. The craft that has gone through the solar system, and we've had to correct its positioning now, because we've now got better equations that Einstein came up with. So we know that Voyager is about half an hour out in terms of where it should be.
Yeah,
but
only half an hour.
The point about this is that what science does is it makes models, right? So Newton made a model, and it's 99% good. And Einstein made a model, and is 99.9% good. It's being challenged. Some people are challenging it. We can never be sure that our models are perfect.
That's right.
a lot of them are very useful models.
Yeah.
And as evidence of that, we've now been able to fly a helicopter on Mars. But
Is that
they're
right?
they're still provisional, and they will be provisional until the end of time.
Yeah, because you're talking about that helicopter on Mars. Because there is some atmosphere up there. They do. It's they, like the Martians. But on Mars, there is an atmosphere, isn't there? So there is like mild winds.
Yeah.
This is why you could fly. If there's no atmosphere, you can't fly a helicopter.
It's a lot smaller than Earth. I think what is it, about a sixth of the size of Earth? I can't remember the details, but as a result, it hasn't retained a very.
I think it's about half the size
compared to the Earth, and so I think the pressure on Mars is only about a 16th of what it is here, and that makes it quite hard to fly a helicopter because there's not much to push against, you know.
Yeah.
You're whirling your rotors, and hardly any thrust is going down.
Yeah.
So there you go. Why did we get here? I don't know.
No, but that's the whole point of this thing that we're doing here. So I'm just going to keep going because I wrote down a few questions to sort of throw out there, and they're probably going to jump all over the place because I mean I'm no Michael Parkinson, so I'm not going to be the most together interviewer or chatter on the planet. So I just jotted down some thoughts that came to my mind. And I take all this in, like, this is great to me. I'm enjoying it. I've got a picture of what I think the type of things that could contribute to a global utopia, right? Now, that's a bit of a dream. That's a bit of a dream. Can it happen? I don't know. But you can have visions, you can have ideas that you think could work and lead us towards that. What does a global utopia look like to you, John?
Well,
sorry,
I don't know what your criteria are for.
Well, I don't know, I'm talking politically and everything, really. Politically, scientifically. Obviously, politics comes in largely to it. We have things like religion, which still affect planets. So I'm talking about the potential of rising beyond those kind of things, having a kind of an elevated consciousness without going into the whole new age thing, but having like an elevated consciousness, which takes us just a bit above, and we start caring about each other and stop ruining the planet and that type of thing. Like,
well, here's the thing. Then I would like to see global secularism. I would like to see all of the decisions in government made without the supposed influence of a supernatural being. And I would like to see education and healthcare free at the point of need to be available worldwide. And I would like to see, particularly in education, more focus on teaching critical thinking and how not to be deceived.
Look, that's really important because that's part of what my whole thing is, and what I want to do through art is to put that idea out there, because we're so filled with misinformation. Like, it just gets pumped into us. It's all over the place. Internet, politicians are pumping it out there just because they have agendas, and it's just so hard to get to the bottom of it, find the truth.
Well, I don't know what the situation is in Australia, but over here we have an organization. I think it's got about 18 staff members. It's called fullfact.org.
Yeah,
that's the website address. And its job is to check some of the pronouncements, particularly of politicians and businessmen who make, unfounded claims, and to counter the propaganda and journalistic misinformation that tends to be swamping the media right now. And it's a wonderful organization.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get it to focus, well, to include in its remit checking facts which are, well, checking information which is being put out by religious organizations. Because, for example, in his Easter address, the Archbishop of Canterbury, our government spit. Our government had just started.
Boris is gone.
Yes, he has. Yes, our government had just started this policy of deporting immigrants, refugees, many of them, to Rwanda. You know, I mean, we used to send our unwanted members of the public down to Australia. but now the government has come up with this variation of the same strategy to send people to Rwanda. And
Right.
The Archbishop of Canterbury doesn't approve of it. Neither do I. But he came out, because he gets a microphone, I don't, you know, and he made his Easter address. And he said that this will be a paraphrase, I can't remember his actual words. If you'd forewarned me what we're going to talk about, I could have pulled it up on screen. But he said something along the lines of, my knowledge of God, it indicates that this is not a moral policy, you see. Now, what I want is fullfact.org to question how he knows what God thinks.
Yeah.
That's a good question, isn't it? We need the answer.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And look, organizations like that, I think, it's a great thing, because you need to question these people and can't just be let run amok.
No.
And, you know, put this stuff out there, which is unfounded. Like, it really is a problem. I've got Ganna in the chat. This is who I've told you about, John, the lady that we do art together. She's helping with a number of different things. An animated series called The Utopians that I was messing around with, and it's still there. It's on the cards, but it needs so much time and effort trying to put all this stuff together.
Well, tell me about it. Yeah. I'll speak about.
Hello, Ganna. It's great to see you. And I'm trying to respond. This is the first time I've done a live stream, so I'm kind of just learning as I go here.
Good question, though.
I can respond to Ganna.
Yeah.
If you'd like. Thank you for joining in, Ganna. But the thing about crystals is they don't have any spare energy. The whole reason that they are crystals is because the molecules have formed an association of least energy. That's why they've crystallized. They've given up any energy of movement that they might have had when they were in a solution, say, and formed this more or less fairly rigid sort of structure. So they've
now, John, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you may have missed the second part of the sentence because
I'm coming on to uranium and nuclear.
Okay, good.
I just wanted to deal with it in order, you know. So uranium or nuclear-like material, that's not the same as what you might call the energy of crystallization. This is nuclear energy. This is where a nucleus has it's unstable because it doesn't have, in the case of uranium, for example, it doesn't have sufficient neutrons to enable the protons to closely reside together because they repel. And so there are two sorts of uranium. There's probably more than two, but the two major isotopes are 238 and 235. And 238 is moderately radioactive. The nucleons occasionally kick out a neutron because they're unhappy with their stability. But 235 is the one that's much more unstable, and that's the one that, if you want to make a bomb, that's the one that doesn't just kick out the odd neutron, it splits in half, releasing an enormous amount of energy. But this is nothing to do with crystallization.
This is why we have a retired science teacher to really explain stuff like that. That was great. What did you say? Hang on.
Yes, uranium, big source of uranium in Australia. Yeah.
Ghana is in Arizona.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But you've got lots of uranium ore in Australia too.
We do, yeah, we do. So continuing on, maybe I've got too many questions here. Like, we've been 41 minutes. We'll keep going. And Ghana, if you're listening, like, I'd like to get you on here at some stage to do this. So hopefully this will be a continuing thing. It's good to just see someone in the chat. That's awesome. Oh, and here we go, John. Okay, moving on. So what inspires you to keep going as an outspoken activist and basically not hang up your hat and
good question.
Really retire, not do anything, watch television and play golf or something?
Yeah. No, I got the bug for science when I was 11. I went to the grammar school and started getting good teaching in science. 3 separate topics, chemistry, physics, and biology. And I was a bit of a nerd. I set up my own laboratory in our shed, and I got lots of chemicals, and I did stuff that you can't do anymore because of health and safety. But I was able to make gunpowder. I was able to make nitrogen triiodide. Which,
you were a mad scientist.
I was. Yeah. I was crazy boy.
Yeah.
And that's never left me. I mean, for example, last year, my younger daughter and I made a hot air balloon in the garden, and there's a video of it floating away. So, I'm fascinated by this stuff. So though I don't go out and work in schools anymore, I'm too old for that, I can do this. I can get my mission completed of helping people to understand how the world really works on YouTube, and I can make friends too. I've been described as wonderfully genial, and so I'm not like your shock jock. I'm not like your conspiracy theorist. I don't get people on to argue with them. Yeah. And all my guests on my channel, which is called Free Thought Channel, are willing to come back because they've enjoyed being on my show. Yeah. So, and I don't need, I can do it sitting down. I don't need to have the power of a younger man to sit in front of the camera and talk. Yeah, I can also drive, because that's a sitting down activity.
And look, I agree. Arguing with people is not gonna do anything in the end. Like, it's good to be able to just have good open conversations, and that's the whole point. I mean, that's how you're gonna develop. And as I said before, elevate consciousness, or like overall, is to have conversations and chat, because I mean, people just are what they are because of the situation they happen to be in. It's pretty much not anyone's fault who they are and why they've ended up as they are, and why they believe what they believe. So rather than put down and insult people, it's good to be able to chat. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, one of the first things you learn as a teacher is not to alienate your class.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Make everyone feel comfortable and welcome. Yeah.
Yes. So that's what I try to do. You know, I'm not into the business of conflict and tribalism. I don't think that's conducive to our ultimate aim of, you know, one humanity.
Exactly. Well, that's for religion. Tribalism, we'll leave that to religion, and not just religion, to be fair. Like there are different things that cause that. All kinds of misinformation cause that, and create groups that disagree and fight against each other. It's all right having a disagreement, but it gets to the point where it's, you know, even with politics and partisan politics and things of that nature, which doesn't really achieve anything. It just ends up with people in groups disagreeing for the sake of disagreeing, almost, you know.
Yeah. Well, do you want me to talk about my project and about music? Because I'd be happy to.
Well, I was that's gonna be one of my questions, is to ask you what you are coming up to do. I've just got a couple more questions, and I won't keep you for much longer.
Okay.
I'm so happy to have these couple of people in the chat, because this is great. This is like I threw this out here as an experiment, and hopefully something that we'll continue on with, and it's purely to support the whole creative process of writing music and creating. And you're going to see a lot of stuff coming out soon. Next week there's going to be a music video coming out with Aaron Ra. I spoke to you about that, John. He's on there doing this video, so he stars in it. The song's coming up great. The production quality is really good. It's gone beyond the other one, What If You're Wrong. It's next level of production. It's really stepping up. So things are improving all the time. And that's the whole point of this. So I'd like to keep it as an ongoing thing, maybe not completely regular every week or every couple of weeks, but, you know, within every 2 or 3 weeks here and there, just depending on how things are going and who's able to do it.
Good. Yeah.
But
so yes, I would like to hear about your music, your project.
Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, John. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, as you know, it's all past now. I haven't touched music as a performer for about, it's coming up for 40 years, I think. But I had a period of my life where I was in a band, and I can't
get you to play a song. I've been trying.
Well, I was the guitarist, and I was what you might call the second lead vocalist. And it's a period of my life that I look back on with absolute joy. It was a wonderful time, and I got paid. You know, I was a semi-professional musician who got paid for performing. So, but that's a closed chapter. However, what I now want to do is to expand our YouTube channel, because I've got some collaborators on it now, and work towards the website idea that I was floating earlier on this year with you, Brian, which we called Free Thought City.
Which I did want to bring up, but I didn't know where you were at with that and how much information you want to put out there or speak about that publicly. So
I'm happy to talk about that too, because it's not dead. We went through a what do you call it? A fundraiser on. Tell me the name of the major fundraising website.
Yes, no,
GoFundMe.
Not that one.
Not GoFundMe. It was
that one. Anyway, yeah.
So I know.
That was our first step, our tiptoe into the waters, if you like. And subsequently to that, we had a very suitable investor who came to us, very highly recommended, with enormous financial backing, and it looked for a moment as though, well, more than a moment, as though we were going to get launched on the back of her money. Unfortunately, she's now pulled out, so we're now back. It's been a roller coaster, We're now back at nearer to the beginning again. But I'm looking at doing this in collaboration with some of the people who are on our channel, Free Thought Channel. So it's still FTC, was Free Thought City, now it's Free Thought Channel.
Yeah.
And I have a producer who's based in Sweden, who is a computer nerd. He's fully okay with, doing pretty much anything on the internet. And I also have some correspondents one of whom is based in South Africa. She's visiting this country at the moment, and another one is in Canada. And so for our global atheist news show, we now have people in different parts of the world who can give us reports on the items of interest that have happened over there. So what we're doing is we now have more than one show, because originally I just had my interview show, which is a bit like what you're doing now. And I got some really good subjects to be interviewed. I got AC Grayling, who I still count as a friend. In fact, he's recently recorded a very short video with me and other people for the opening address at the Atheism UK AGM. So that's coming up in about 3 weeks. So basically, I'm at the center of a web. My mixing metaphors, my tentacles spread everywhere, and so I want to go on and talk about the musical aspect of it again, because.
Can I just say though, before you jump into that, like the people that you reach is amazing. Like I was telling Zoltan before, and what you're just saying about AC Grayling, who's obviously a great author. Lawrence Krauss, and the different people that you are able to get on and chat to, like it's really quite amazing, and you do a great job of the whole interviewing thing, which I'm not quite up to your standards, but then I don't have that much experience. But yeah, look, the Free Thought City, or not Free Thought City, but the show that you do with the interviews is great, and the people that you talk to, you get some great people from around the world. It's really, really interesting.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's all due to the guest. It's not me. I just facilitate them. Really, that's all my role is.
Yeah, but you do it well. But anyway,
I want to say that we've not only got Free Thought Hour, which is the interview show, but we've also got the Global Atheist News weekly show, which reports on how religion has impacted humanity over the past 7 days. And now we have Global Atheist News Review, where I have a panel of opinionated people from around the world who express their views on the news that has just gone out. But we're looking to branch out into a quiz show and a musical show. What we're trying to do is to make Free Thought Channel more rounded.
Yeah.
Not a lot of channels are very niche. They're atheist hatred channels or fundamentalist hatred channels. I don't want to be like that. I want to appeal more broadly.
Which is why I referred to you as a free thinker rather than an atheist.
Yes. Yeah. So I want to tell you about the proposed music show, because you might be interested in getting involved in this.
We are your people.
Great. So it's fleshing it out a bit. It's a talent contest, right? The idea is that it will last an hour, and it will be either themed on a genre of music or targeted at a location like Australia, or both. And it will feature bands or solo performers who will send us a video of 3 numbers that they perform, and we will assemble them. We'll gather all these in and assemble them into a show of a bill of similar type,
Yeah.
And we will then attract an audience who will judge these efforts, and there will be a prize. At the moment, we're looking at a case of wine as a prize for the one that gets the most votes from the audience.
I'm definitely into that.
Great. Well, there you go. Yes. Yeah. Well, Australian wine is so good, isn't it? Yes. And
yeah.
And so the idea is that once they've gone out, this material will be taken down if that's what the performers wish, because we don't want people to think that they've given away their acts. We want them to think that if you attended this show and saw a glimpse of them for the while that it was available on the internet, won't turn into a podcast with them in it, then you're going to have to go and see them live somewhere. So we won't squander their material unless they're happy with that. You know, I mean, they will have a box to tick. Do you want your... Some acts only want to appear on screen. So they don't want
those just want to get their shit out there any way they can. So those guys are just going to say, yep, chug it out there. It's all good.
So that's one proposal for a show to broaden the style of performance, the style of shows that will be available on Free Thought Channel. Another one will be a quiz, where it will be, I don't know whether you get Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. There won't be a millionaire prize. There won't be a million prize, but that's the show where you have options.
I'm not entering that then.
You know, you have A, B, and C as answers to questions, and you select which one you want to go with. And so that's an idea as well.
Similar idea anyway, but that sounds really interesting. You may potentially have a couple of music judges here, Sultan.
Well, that's my level of expertise. I'm still a student, one of your students as far as science and philosophy is concerned. But are you saying that this would run live, this show?
It will be. It will be as live. As you know, most of what's put out these days, even though it's scheduled and it has a launch date, it was recorded. It was recorded last week, right? You know, so it will be as live, and so the contestants will send in their videos. We'll sort them into a show, transmit them, stream them, live stream them, and so there will be a live audience with comments in the sidebar and so on, and so a vote will be taken and a winner will be declared, and a case of wine or specialist beers will be on its way.
All the way to Australia when we win.
Well, in the case of Australia, we will use a local provider of wine cases.
The local bottle shop. Liquor land up the road. We'll go there. I think
sounds really good, John. Sounds really good.
Thank you.
It does sound good, mate. It does sound good. And you're getting to put that out there to my two people in the chat. So we've got an audience. So that's pretty cool because I wasn't actually expecting anybody. There was another person that popped in before, Godless Scummer, who thought that it started at 8. So he's obviously missed it. But that's my fault. Anyway, okay. So I've asked you what inspires you to keep going as an outspoken activist. Don't hang up your hat. What changes would you like to see in your lifetime, I guess, to achieve the better things? Like what things? This is my second last question. The last one I think we've covered anyway. So this is probably going to be about it. And we've done well because we've gone... Well, we've done an hour. So what changes would you personally like to see, and what do you want to try and achieve, I guess?
Well, a lifetime, eh? I'm near the end of my lifetime, so that doesn't give me much chance to achieve anything. I I would like.
Christopher Hitchens said, "We're all dying," so it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. You're a healthy-looking man to me, so I think you've got a while left. I think you're going to see some changes. What would you?
My version of what Hitchens said is, life is a terminal disease, and it's sexually transmitted.
He was a humorous person, wasn't he? Like
He was
really witty. I don't know if you're familiar with Christopher Hitchens, Wally.
No.
Yeah.
You should get
very much an atheist activist, and just a witty and smart guy. Great to listen to talking, but that's hilarious.
A hero.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's one of the reasons I got on to.
What can I hope to achieve? Well,
sorry. Yeah.
I'd like to see it, putting my president of AUK hat on. I would like to see that organization grow, and it's doing it. I'm pleased to announce that we now have a branch in the north of England, based around Manchester, and so I'd like to see it have more clout. I'd like to see it have greater impact on the political situation here in the UK. And I'd also like to see a reduction in faith schools. I'd like to see more education focused towards critical thinking, as I was saying earlier. And I'm happy to have children taught religion, but I want them taught all religions as a sort of history of mankind.
Because it's most definitely part of our history. Yeah.
So those are some short-term, fairly realistic aims that I'm working towards.
Mate, that's great. It's very interesting, and as you say, realistic things, and that's what we have to aim for. Look, we've chatted for an hour, and I think that it's been a pretty good chat. I'd like to get you on again somewhere down the track.
Sure.
When we have it a bit more together and kind of know what's going on.
Well done, Brian, for your first attempt.
Thanks, mate.
Yes, indeed. Well done.
It's not quite Dave Allen yet, but I think you've got.
No. I'm working up to it. And speaking of Dave Allen, some good religious jokes. That's what you're talking about, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, a very funny man. Another atheist. What have we got here? Universe. I'll put this up quickly. So, look, we're going to get more people in. Ganna's going to pop on at some stage. I think she said earlier. So I'd love to have a chat with Ganna, who's a really talented artist. And just a number of other people that are kind of around what I've been doing over the past few years, really. Been exploring social media and whatever.
Really?
But look, let's finish it up. Thanks for coming on, John. It's been lovely chatting. We haven't caught up for a while, so we've chatted a bit just on FaceTime between just you and I personally.
Yeah.
My great mate Zoltan there. Thanks for jumping on, mate, and helping out. And just having my back a bit because, this maybe isn't my most
on your conversation.
Yeah.
Good on you.
I think we overall had a good chat. So I look forward to doing it next time. And I think I'll just end the broadcast and let's stay in touch, John. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, we must speak again, definitely.
Absolutely. And we'll talk again soon. Let's speak about your musical concepts that you have there. And we'll stay in touch. We'll talk about it. Thanks to those couple of people in the chat. We've got Ganna and we got Dutch Joan. That was great. Thank you. Appreciate you popping in. So that's great. Hopefully we can build that up. All right. Good on you guys. Thanks very much.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
See you later.